Your face is about to betray you. Right now. Somewhere today, you will say something wrong, or trip in front of a stranger, or laugh a half second too late, and heat will rush into your cheeks before you can stop it. You didn't choose it, you can't switch it off. And here's the strange part. It might be the only human expression that exists purely to punish you in public. Why would evolution build that? Every other survival trait makes sense on sight. Fear keeps you away from cliffs. Disgust keeps you away from rot. Pain keeps you away from fire. But blushing does the opposite of protect you. It exposes you. It lights up your face like a warning sign the exact moment you most want to disappear. So what if it never happened? What if somewhere back in the deep fog of human evolution, the gene for blushing simply never switched on? To answer that, you have to go back further than you'd expect. Not centuries, not even to the first cities. You have to go back to a time before humans had much language at all, when a group's survival depended on something far more fragile than muscle or speed. It depended on trust. Charles Darwin was obsessed with this problem. In his later work on human expression, he called blushing the most peculiar and the most human of all expressions because no other animal does it and no infant does it either. Babies don't blush. Blushing arrives later, once a child understands that other people are watching and judging and forming opinions about them. It is not a reflex to danger, it is a reflex to being seen. Think about what that means. Somewhere in your ancestral past, a trait evolved for the sole purpose of announcing in real time that you know you messed up, not hiding it, announcing it. And that should be a disadvantage. A liar with a poker face should always win over a person whose cheeks broadcast every guilty thought. So why are you still built this way? The psychologist Dr. Keltner has spent decades studying this exact contradiction. His research suggests blushing isn't a flaw in the system, it's a signal aimed at other people that says something like this: I know I broke a rule. I feel bad about it. I'm still safe to be around. In small ancestral groups where everyone depended on everyone else for food, protection, and survival, that signal mattered enormously. A person who blushed after a mistake was showing the group they still cared what the group thought. A person who felt nothing was showing the opposite. Now imagine your ancestors without that signal. Picture the earliest human bands, maybe 40 or 60 people, sharing meat, sharing fire, sharing the risk of everything from predators to famine. In a group that small, trust wasn't a nice idea, it was survival infrastructure. If someone stole food, lied about danger, or broke an agreement, the group needed a way to know whether that person understood what they'd done. Without language complex enough to hold a trial, without written law, without any of the tools you rely on today to sort the trustworthy from the dangerous, the body itself had to do the talking. A blush was cheap. It was instant. It was almost impossible to fake convincingly, and that made it valuable in exactly the way a signature or a lie detector is valuable now. It let others read guilt directly off your skin. Here's where it gets stranger. Researcher Ray Crozier, one of the leading scientists studying blushing today, has found that people rate a blushing person as more trustworthy after a mistake than someone who shows no reaction at all. Not less trustworthy. More. The very thing that feels like betrayal in the moment, heat rising up your neck while everyone stares, may be the exact mechanism that has kept you socially connected your entire life. So picture the version of humanity where that gene never appeared. Without a built-in signal of guilt, every social rule would have to be enforced some other way. Maybe through stricter punishment, since there'd be no early warning of remorse to soften a group's response. Maybe through slower trust, since nobody could read intent on a face, only through actions proven over time. Groups might have grown smaller, more suspicious, less willing to forgive small mistakes because there would be no visible difference between someone who felt terrible about breaking a rule and someone who felt nothing at all. In a world with no blush, you might have needed to be far more careful, far more calculating, far more guarded just to survive being misunderstood. And that thought should feel familiar, because in some ways you already live in a version of that world. Think about how much modern life has removed the blush from the equation. Online, you can say something cruel, wrong, or careless, and no one sees your face. There is no immediate flush of heat to signal regret. No real-time cue that tells a stranger you understand the damage you caused. Entire platforms run on the absence of blushing, on distance replacing the ancient biological handshake that used to hold small groups together. So maybe that's why online conflict escalates so much faster than conflict in person. Not because people have changed, because the oldest trust signal your species ever evolved simply isn't available anymore. Here's the question worth sitting with. If blushing kept early humans honest with each other by making guilt visible, what happens to a society that spends more and more of its life somewhere that guilt can't be seen at all? You might already know the answer, because you felt it. That specific relief of apologizing to someone's face, watching their expression soften, versus the flat, uncertain silence of typing "sorry" into a screen and getting nothing back. One of those carries thousands of years of evolutionary weight behind it. The other is brand new, and your body has no ancient reflex built for it yet. So the next time heat rises in your cheeks after some small, humiliating mistake, try not to hate it. That flush isn't a design flaw. It's one of the oldest trust signals your species ever built. Older than language, older than law, older than almost anything else that holds a group of humans together. Your ancestors survived in part because their faces couldn't lie, and every time yours gives you away, it's still doing exactly the job it was built for thousands of years later, whether you asked it to or not.